Welcome to the Gaudium et Spes podcast. Every other week, we bring you Catholic teachings and stories of faith from people throughout the Diocese of Pensacola-Tallahassee. This is the Gaudium et Spes podcast.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Gaudium et Spes podcast. I'm here with my co-host, Chez. Chez, hi.
What's up, Susanne?
Hey.
Where are we today?
Well, goodness, we are not in our studio anymore, are we? We have the pleasure of being here at St. Rita's, and we are with the Lillie family. We have Ryan, Layne, and Hannah. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, it's really great to have you guys here today. So if you they were featured in the Compass magazine back in the March-April 2019, and we got to hear a little bit about the miracle of Hannah, but we'd like to catch up with them today and see where they are and how things are going and get a little bit more on their background. So it's real exciting, and you're just an amazing family, and we're really grateful that you could be here today with us on this podcast.
Yeah. Well, we're going to get to know, first of all, see what's going on in our lives. And if you guys watch the podcast or listen to the podcast, we always start with the first line from Gaudium et Spes, the document, which I haven't memorized at this point in time. It goes, the joys and the hopes, the griefs and anxieties of the men of this age, especially those who are poor or in any way afflicted, these are the joys and the hopes, the griefs and anxieties of the followers of Christ. So we like to ask, what are your joys, your hopes, your griefs and anxieties right now? Basically high-low, what's going on in life that's been particularly interesting lately, to put you on the spot.
You want to start?
Sure. I would say our highs is how well Hannah's doing.
Yeah.
She recently had a follow-up, and the doctor said, we don't know how she's doing what she's doing, because she shouldn't even be alive. And then the fact that she's thriving and you would never know anything different is certainly the high. And it's always wanting more and praying for more, but also being present and just recognizing the miracle and how well she's doing. She's a typical 4-year-old.
She's looking lovely.
Yes.
Thanks.
Ryan, what's up with you? Apart from all that, obviously.
I thought you were going to talk about your trip to France.
Oh, yeah, I did just get back from France. It was wonderful.
Oh, my gosh.
My first solo ever away from her.
Wow.
Ryan laughed and was like, you can't go to New Orleans for the weekend. I had to go to France.
She
it
ripped
was
the
amazing.
Band-Aid.
Yeah.
Was it a placation or work thing?
It was for
or?
fun. It was with a group of ladies.
Oh, man.
And it was an art and immersion retreat. So that might be where Ryan's low is, because he's coming off of 2 weeks alone with Hannah.
Yeah. We're passing each other. Yeah, she got to go to France, and I was on serious dad duty.
Nice.
Okay.
Did you have fun with Dad, though? No?
No comment.
No comment.
She had fun.
Good deal. Well, Chez, how about you?
Okay.
What's been going on with you?
I know I talk about soccer too much on this podcast, but I'm going to keep doing it, so whatever. First of all, a high. Got to meet Ryan, actually, this past weekend over here at St. Rita's in the St. Rita's Men's Retreat. And 90 men from this parish just gathering for a weekend. I don't know. As a diocesan guy, it's just really cool to see parishes gather their people together over faith and some cool fellowship and stuff. Got to drink a little nice bourbon, too, around the table at the end, so that was a high. But, yeah, grief and anxiety, my beloved, so you know, if you're listening to this podcast, Italy is my favorite international soccer team, club soccer team, Liverpool. Yesterday was the deciding championship Sunday between us and Manchester City, and for 75 minutes, there was this glimmer of hope that Manchester City were going to completely mess up and lose epically at home, but it didn't work out in the end. They scored 3 goals in 5 minutes and broke my heart, and broke my son's heart, which is even worse because he's a 6-year-old Liverpool fan, but all shall be well. We'll see what happens next weekend. One more trophy to go. So, yeah, that's random. I know. I'll stop.
That's okay.
Stop me if I talk. Just be like, stop talking about soccer all the time.
It's you. Yeah, well, I'm coming off of graduation week for my nephew.
Oh, wow.
So my parents came to town. My sister was in town. So we just had a really nice family celebration. So it was great to get everybody back together again for a really cool occasion. And, shout out to my nephew John, who's headed to UCF here in the fall. So he'll be joining his sister, who's already down there. Yep. They're going to be tonight.
Is that the country's biggest university?
It is, yes.
That's cool.
And if you've ever visited their campus, it's ginormous. I mean, there's so much land there. So
It's crazy.
It's really cool.
Yeah. Never knew that.
Yeah, it is.
Ryan and Layne, you guys are Auburn grads, correct?
We are, yeah.
So there's a little UCF connection there. You got rid of Gus, and Gus went to UCF.
True.
I'm like, I have no idea.
He was your football coach for a long time.
Come on, Layne.
Yeah.
Okay, well, now, Chez, there's 3 SEC and one ACC. So
Yeah.
I think we win today.
Yeah, I think you do all the time anyway, so you don't need to rub it in or anything.
I won't.
Well, great. As Susanne said, we're here to talk about Ryan and Layne and Hannah's story. And if you don't know the background, it's kind of like just the Lord miraculously intervening in their lives and the gift of Hannah. But we do want to get to know the source of Hannah beforehand, which is Ryan and Layne. Just here, your basic faith journey, where you all grew up, and God in your life as you got older and stuff like that. How you guys met, and how you ended up, especially here on the beautiful shores of 30A and this awesome parish with Father Michael Hartley. Yeah. So go for it.
You want me to start?
Sure.
Yeah, so for me, I'd say unfortunately it was the classic Catholic story of confirmation, and then right at confirmation it's viewed as a graduation and you're done. And so, pretty much through college and early adulthood was just straying from the church and didn't want to be bound to the morals and standards, and I guess I had to stray in chasing things that typical college student, the classic stuff. So anyway, graduated from Auburn, I was originally from Texas, went to high school in Fairhope, Alabama. And anyway, I ended up playing junior college baseball in Texas, and then ultimately went to Auburn. And from there, just went to school, got an engineering degree, started working in Texas. And that's where I met Layne. We met at a Auburn alumni happy hour. So they did stuff to try to get alumni together. So we didn't know each other at Auburn. And then I guess, dated off and on for a little bit, finally got serious about that, and got married in 2013. So I would say probably around that time was, it was one of those of like, okay, if this is real, if this is something, I need to give this like one last serious look from a Catholicism standpoint. And so that's kind of where my journey back to the church started. It was a pretty random story. I'll just share, but Layne was actually in a car accident, and then it was probably like a year and a half later was sued by the lady that she hit. And
not my fault.
Yeah. And so the lawyer that Layne, her insurance company, gave her, I guess they were chatting whatever, and told her about a men's program, That Man Is You, which Steve Bowman started out in Houston. And so I got connected with some guys at St. Michael's Parish, and showed up and just started going. And that was the start of me coming back to Catholicism, and really, really challenging. Like, came in just skeptical, but really tried to press all the teachings and why this, why that. And I don't know. Every answer was amazing. It just opened my eyes up to the rich intellectual traditions of the church fathers, and it all just started to make sense. So with that, I just I couldn't get enough of it. I had to just keep digging in, learning more and more. But yeah, that was the beginning, and that was for me, the stray and the journey back.
Very good.
We talk a ton, just a quick aside, we talk a ton about evangelization because of Bishop's letter on this podcast. People take note, a random invitation from a guy that you just kind of barely knew probably.
Yeah.
And like without that invitation, no faith journey, no continuation probably or anything like that. That's powerful. And just a disclaimer, those meetings were at 6 o'clock in the morning on a weekday.
Oh, yeah.
What possessed you to do? Who does that? Who responds?
That's
to that
grace of God right there. Yeah. But yeah, it was. And at the time, I wasn't going to mass on Sundays, but I was going to the 6 a.m. meeting Thursday morning.
That's crazy.
Wow.
But it ultimately led to mass on Sundays.
Good deal.
Yeah.
Well, Layne, how about you? Where did you grow up? And tell us a little bit about your faith journey.
I grew up here, actually.
Okay.
I was raised Episcopalian, and I became Catholic after we were married. 2 years after we were married, probably around 2 years, which was an easy transition from Catholic light to Catholic. And yeah, I've just always had a pretty strong faith. I will say Hannah rocked it a little bit,
Yes.
but the miracles that we've seen firsthand is just amazing.
Yeah, definitely. Well, hi, Hannah. How are you today?
Good.
Good. How old are you now?
4.
4. Wow.
With our British accent.
Yes. I understand you like to go to playgrounds, yes?
Where's your favorite playgrounds? What state?
Colorado.
What's so great about those playgrounds?
Who lives in Colorado in the summer? Why do we go to Colorado?
Mike and Lucy.
Her grandparents live in Colorado in the summer to escape the Florida heat.
Oh, that's cool. That's really,
We go visit, and they have the best playgrounds.
And Pepe and Chapel and Jay Bird is going to be there.
Yeah, her cousins will be there too when we go visit.
Terrific. Do you do anything fun when you're in Colorado besides going to playgrounds? Is there something else you like to do there?
Play baby dolls.
Oh, play with baby dolls. Yes. And I hear you have many baby dolls.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
It's a favorite pastime.
Yeah, it
of
is.
4-year-old girls. I've heard a thing or two about it.
What about animals? Do you like animals?
Yeah.
Do you have an animal?
Yeah.
What is it?
A pig.
A pig. A pig. What's your real animal? Your dog.
We do not have a pig.
Hank.
Hank. He's kind of a pig. What kind of dog is he?
A Doberman.
Oh, wow. A
Doberman.
Doberman.
He scares the bad guys away, I bet.
And we play. And I'm practicing soccer at the house.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, she might be a Liverpool fan. I don't
There
know.
you go.
Very good.
that accent.
I hear you've ridden horses before. Is that true? Is that something you like
Was
to
it
do?
a really big horse or a little horse?
With a horse.
A little.
What was his name
It
again?
was a miniature. Benny, the miniature pony. Yeah. That's a favorite Colorado pastime too.
Yeah.
Miniature ponies are really cool. I have if anybody watched Parks and Rec, the show, Little Sebastian, one of the best characters in the show. It's a miniature horse. Anyhow, that's neither here nor there. Like you mentioned, you're from here, so you guys probably end up here, done with Houston living and stuff like that. Got a little tiresome, the big city, perhaps.
It
And then
did.
came back home.
We were ready for a new chapter. Ryan was in oil and gas crashed. And then we were pregnant at the time and had a miscarriage. And after that, it was like, and his parents had just moved away. And so after that, it was like, there's no reason for us to be here. So then we packed up and moved back to the beach.
Yeah, it
And
was
that was in
something.
2016.
That was probably I would say close to 2 years we had prayed about of just getting out of the rat race, the 9-to-5 corporate. But there was no way we would ever just voluntarily leave it. Mm-hmm. And then it was all within probably a matter of 6 months, everything that she just mentioned started to happen to where those ties that were there, were no longer. And so it really paved the way for us to make a transition.
So come back here. Hannah comes along pretty soon afterward, or
we moved
a little
in
bit later?
Thanksgiving of 16.
Yeah.
Okay.
She was born January of 18.
Okay. So that's not far afterward.
So we were here, I'd say a full year, just grinding, trying to get new careers going. Mm-hmm. So,
I was a nurse in Houston, and when we moved here, I was just done and needed a break. So I started doing photography, and it's become an amazing blessing and outlet for me, and really busy. So I'm thankful. And then with my nursing degree, it was quite handy for Hannah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Also.
Yeah. So you get pregnant, and it's a pretty good pregnancy. No major issues, correct?
No, it was, everything was great. She was due at the end of December. She was 10 days late.
Okay.
And it was a 3-hour labor and delivery.
Beautiful.
God was like,
all natural.
And it was, it was, I think God was like, I'm going to give this to you because you're about to go on quite the ride. So that was easy and amazing. And then 3 weeks later is when she got sick. Again, you want a little background on that?
Please, yes.
So she, we knew that her blood work was off, even though she looked perfectly healthy. So we were concerned about something else. So we were monitoring her blood work, but she was acting completely normal. And then at 3 weeks, she vomited and turned blue.
Okay.
So we drove straight to the ER. And from there, it was at the local ER. From the moment we got there, they were just trying to stabilize her. And it was really pretty terrible. We couldn't fly her because the weather was too bad. So then we finally got transport. So that happened. It started around 8 p.m. And then I think we got to Pensacola 2, maybe 2 a.m.
It was in the middle of the night.
And then they worked on her all night. And finally, Dr. Follin, the PICU doctor that we adore, he came in and he's like, I just need you to come be in the room because, well, I don't think he told us at the time. It was to say goodbye because he's like, there's nothing we can do for her. And so we went in and we didn't know any different, but finally they got her stable enough and it looked like a war scene in there with just everything all over the ground and the wrappers and the supplies they had used. And so then they still didn't know what was going on. They were going to do exploratory surgery. I think they kind of had an idea, but she wasn't stable enough till early in the next morning. And so we actually were able to have the priest come by and bless her right before her surgery. And so her vital signs were all over the place. I mean, she was not stable at all. And so the priest came in and try not to cry every time it gets me. But she, that was for her baptism.
That was baptism.
And so it was me and Ryan, Father Tom, and Nurse Ryan. And as soon as the holy water hit her, she stabilized. And it was funny because we call him Uncle Ryan because we say he's the honorary godfather of Hannah since he was there for her baptism. But he kept looking at the monitor and looking at the priest, looking at the monitor, looking at us like, what is happening? And it was crazy. It was amazing that she stabilized through the entire baptism. And so then she went to surgery and so Hannah had her intestines had twisted. It was just the way she was formed. And it cut off blood circulation. So she lost all but 1 inch of her small intestine, which normally, I mean, that's over 99% of your small intestine. And so the doctors she also had been, when we got to the ER, her blood pressure was 20/0. So they said if she lives, she's not, she's been without oxygen for so long that there's no way. You really need to do hospice because this child will not have any kind of quality of life. And so then the medicine started dropping off. She was extubated. She woke up and seemed fine. Yeah. From a neurological standpoint. And we would every day just say, okay, God and Hannah are driving this ship. We'll see what happens today, and just let them control this.
It was, Father Tom was amazing.
Tom's a hospital chaplain at Sacred Heart. Yeah.
And so just being in that hospital, right before the surgery, the surgeons came and they're like, we don't know what this is, but we have to open her up and just go in. And he made that comment of do you want her baptized? And so he was amazing, during the middle of all that. And then also they have the chapel in the church. And so just being able to go every day to Mass in the midst of that was awesome, because it brought us. You had the doctors; they were unsure of, hey, what situation did we leave her in? Is she brain dead? All these unknowns, and so you had this very medical, perception of we've seen this time and time again. This is not good, and then so there's just a lot of anxiety there, and then just the peace of being able to go to Mass and have Father Tom, and just the spiritual aspect is what got us through it, because it brought the clarity, it brought us the peace and then sure enough, like Layne said, every day God showed up, and there was a new medication, new line, new something that was being removed, and so we didn't know what to do. Is show us, and he did every time.
Well, so it also was you need to consider hospice. And so my background actually was in hospice nursing and palliative care in Houston. So and with high risk children that had been in the neonatal ICU. And so in my mind, I was we're not doing this to her. If she's going to, I'm not going to keep pushing to do things if God wants to take her home. And so we, had a friend, so they were encouraging hospice. I was down with hospice. And then we had one of our really good friends, Bo, he wouldn't take no for an answer. And so he joined Shortcut. So that's what Hannah has, is shortcut syndrome, which, so he joined a short bowel syndrome family support Facebook group and posted and said, I have a friend whose little girl just lost most of her small intestine, and the doctors say she'll have no quality of life. How is life on TPN? And so that's what Hannah gets TPN at night. It's our surgeon in Boston says it's just, she's like a Tesla. You just have to plug her in and recharge her overnight. And so it goes into a central line. It's her IV nutrition that she gets every night.
What is TPN? Okay.
And
and that central line goes to her heart. Okay. So it's that comes with a lot of challenges and risk, et cetera. Keep going.
And so that the doctor's there's all they see obviously is just the kids that are always sick because of their central line. It's just not a good quality of life. So that's what they were telling us. And so then that's when it's gonna make me cry. That's when Lauren.
Hannah's nurse is off camera right now. Lauren is over there.
Thank you.
We're not going to make you come on, Lauren. Don't worry or anything.
She wasn't prepared for the interview. We didn't warn her. But Lauren responded and was like,
it's okay.
You could say
it. You need me to take over? No, I got to hold it together. But yeah, Lauren gave us a ton of hope, just of all you hear is the doctor's perspective of what they see. They see the worst. And then Lauren was that resource that provided us, I was in sports, I did cheerleading, softball, all these things, and had this
Lauren has short bowel syndrome and has had a central line her entire life, and she's
Yeah, so she still has
really
central
old.
line.
She's like 28 now. But she commented and said, I would love to talk to this family. The doctors don't know what they're talking about. And so I tried to call her, and she texted and said, I'm sorry, I can't talk because I'm on vacation in the mountains with my husband and I don't have good cell service. And I'm like, really? Because that doesn't sound like too bad of a quality of life. And so Lauren is a big reason that after hearing that, we were like, okay, we're not pushing for this hospice anymore because they don't know what they're talking about. And so then the crazy part of that is Lauren lived in Arkansas at the time. Her husband's in the military, and then he was just stationed in Panama City. And she's an RN. And so she said, could I come work? Well, Ryan had already brainwashed her to try to come work for us. And so she said, could I come and join the team? And so now she's Hannah's nurse and with us 3 days a week.
Completely random from a Facebook post, and now she's here as Hannah's nurse.
Keeping our family together.
Yeah.
So Lauren's the reason I got to go to France. Lauren did all of Hannah's medical care when I was gone, so it was amazing. But it's just God has showed up so many wild times just like that, of situations where it's like.
But I think too, Layne had seen that so many times from her hospice background that that maybe that's where her mind naturally went, of just having. And then same with the medical staff there. They had seen this time and time again, and you know, God had completely different plans where it was continued to be every day there was some drastic change that just drastic improvement.
I kind of want to, I mean, like, so this is, you're just getting back into your Catholic faith, like in the rhythm of it at this point in time, and you're a new Catholic, but a person, you mentioned, Layne, you had a faith growing up still. Did you expect, especially in that moment when you're here and the blood pressure is 20 over 0 and like all that, like, were you like, God's going to show up? Like, I'm used to, like, this is how I've seen him work in my life before, and, or was it all just kind of like, this is filled with hope, dread, filled with something in between?
I think that for me, it was more of just watching and seeing what God was going to do. And that didn't mean that he was going to save her on earth.
Right.
It just was okay, let's see what God does. Ryan had a very, when Hannah was being baptized, that was his big pivotal moment too in your faith, wouldn't you say, Ryan?
I would say it was before that. It was very much of a Abraham, Isaac moment of just like surrendering. But I would say it would probably been a couple years for me. So at least having that, and then also just from my childhood, I was, raised in the faith, but yeah, if I didn't have that, I don't know, I would have been lost for sure. But that was definitely, what got us through it. But then too, just what the feeling you would have of sitting down and talking with Father Tom and being able to just, discuss some of these things. And then when you sat down and talked with doctors, it was drastically different. And I think by the grace of God, we were able to recognize that of the doctors are great, that they're who saved her, but also don't put your stock in them. They're just his creatures,
I've heard this from nurses a lot, by the way.
You could just sense the difference. And so I think from there, it was the classic, like, one day at a time, and the stuff you always hear, but the cliche stuff. But that's how we did it, and he really did operate that. Like, there were times where I think in the midst of all of it, our insurance dropped us, her health insurance, and then someone would come in to help us battle that, and and then we were here for a full year. That's the thing, is the responsible, adult, you have this nest egg of money and save and to get you through whatever. And so we had transitioned here and had a full year plus of that, and then everything happened. Just so many different aspects of it, like the pridefulness you have of just, I can do this on my own. I got this. And the community really stepping in and helping us in so many different ways, whether it was someone who helped us fight insurance or financially, or
they did a GoFundMe for us that saved us.
Wow.
Really?
We had, my dad worked at Rosemary Beach Realty at the time, and they fed the nurses in the PICU for like 10 days straight.
Wow.
And I mean, just how we were so loved.
Wow.
Right.
Just truly a sense of community coming together to help. And that's incredible. So
One of the people you got to meet along the way in this journey was also Father Tom, and then there's also Bishop Bill wanders in at some point in time.
Yeah, that was also, we laugh now and say, I guess you know you're sick if the bishop comes to visit you.
Oh, gosh.
And that was another one of those crazy moments too, because it was still like, we were trying to discern like what should we do as far as like Hannah's going to be on artificial nutrition. I don't know if she'll ever be able to eat. So is that like, if we did hospice, if, what is right thing to do? So he came to help us, and he was praying over Hannah, and it's like, God, just make it so obvious what the Lilleys are supposed to do, or should they pursue hospice, or is Hannah going to fight, or what we should do. And her heart rate drop, and we all were looking at each other like, oh my gosh, he's about to take her. She came back from it, but she has a thing with priests praying over her and reacting.
She responds.
Yeah.
Goodness.
We also say she's going to grow up and not know it's not normal to have a priest praying over you when you wake up so many times. But yeah, he visited us, which was amazing. And then we went to Boston after that. So we were in Pensacola for 3 weeks, and then we were in Boston for, I think we were there 6 weeks. Longer?
Yeah, close to 2 months probably.
Yeah, just for her to grow and get off some of the TPN.
Yeah, that was Layne. Layne's brother was, crucial in this journey too, as far as really helping us. When all this happens, your brain doesn't necessarily click like it should, and lots of stress. But he did a lot of legwork to find different doctors. So we probably talk with 4 or 5, and every time you do, you learn a little bit more. And we really connected with the last doctor we talked with, Dr. Pewter at Boston Children's. And his plan of attack was just to use what she already has, albeit very tiny, an inch of small intestine, but to rehabilitate that versus other doctors would opt for a transplant or a different approach. But Boston had their track record, and we chose them. And then another God wink kind of deal. We were downstairs at the Sacred Heart, Pensacola, and the guys were signing all this paperwork for Hannah's disabilities. So that's
I'm like signing paperwork that's saying my child is handicapped and disabled, and I'm like sitting there crying that my 3-week-old is now disabled.
But so he's also given us stuff with, we're trying to figure out all these things with insurance, and we've been connected with other families that are like, hey, you should apply for a form of Medicaid out of medical necessity. They would help cover things that your primary insurance might not. So we're trying to figure out all this stuff, and so he's printing out these things for us to sign, and he says, let me go grab that off the printer. And we're in Pensacola, Florida, and he stands up from his desk to get the stuff off the printer, and there's a big picture of the Boston skyline,
and it says Boston across the bottom. We were like,
wow.
And that was like right before going to that, we had made the decision to go to Boston.
We're going
I was
to
just
Boston.
yeah, we're going to
Little breadcrumbs here and there.
Yeah, right.
Exactly.
Wow.
Oh goodness.
He's like, I got to be obvious with these people.
yeah, crystal clear.
So we did, and it was an amazing journey as much as it could have been. We turned our little hospital room into what felt like a dorm room, and because thankfully it was a no drama hospitalization. We were just waiting for her to grow, and so we were there, I guess, almost 2 months, and so then we still didn't know if she would be able to eat ever. Like they said, Pensacola said she might not be able to eat at all. And so through the rehab with Boston Children's and our team there, she eats like everything pretty much. And she, you would never know. Her, the summary of her rehab is that all of us need to eat one cheeseburger to maintain. Hannah's got to figure out how to eat 2 since she has this much intestine.
Okay.
And, so that's where we are in the rehab, is getting her body used to eating double what everybody else eats. And she's just a miracle. And her intestines grew a ton. She just had a scope a couple months ago, and her intestines were so healthy. And they they said they didn't use the word miracle, but I'll use the word miracle. So she's still just amazing.
Yeah, she's bright. She's happy. She's
brain
everything.
Unless she was maybe supposed to be a genius, and now she's like on our level.
Yeah, I mean, if she just walked up to someone, no one would ever know. So I think it's just such it's a beautiful, touching story, and it is the power of God and faith and everything. So,
Susanne, you had a gospel passage that I think came in at some point, and this is the healing of Jairus' daughter. I think.
It was on her actual baptism. The second.
It was. She was scheduled for her. It's not a baptism since she was already baptized, but it was more for me so she could wear her pretty dress, and it was presented in front of the church.
Yeah.
Right.
And the daily reading for that.
Yeah, it was just
day
we had it scheduled. She was hospitalized for something, so we had to reschedule it, and then this just happened. To be.
I know.
And I didn't
sermon.
know what the readings were or whatever, and golly, that was unbelievable.
Yeah. So for those of you that aren't aware, it's Mark chapter 5, verses 21 through 24 and 35 through 43. That was the reading of the day. So,
This is one, Jairus, the local official, comes up. My daughter's sick.
Right.
Everyone thinks like she's gone. Jesus like, she's not gone. I'm going to walk in there, and she starts getting up and walking around and stuff like that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then just for people that aren't aware, this isn't something that just Father Mike picked to coincide. This is picked, way in advance. It just so happened to show up.
Wow.
What's it like? We all, Suzanne's parent, I'm a parent. We look at our kids, they're evidence of God's presence in our lives. Is it like a little bit more for you guys each and every day, where you kind of look like that is like, she's like our little walking evidence of God's presence in our lives?
I would say so. I don't have other children to compare. But.
Right.
Well, I think we both agree that it. I would never want anyone to go through what we went through, but it. The reality and the beauty of it is we definitely see things differently, and not perfect. Still, she still can annoy you and whatever, but it's still having those moments of just, this incredible gift that there's no reasonable explanation of why she's still here other than, the grace of God.
Yeah. Powerful. Well, wonderful. Well, my goodness. Thank you so much for being here today. It was so great to catch up with you and to hear your story again. And for those that never heard it before, for you to hear it directly from Ryan and Layne. And great to have Hannah on camera at the beginning here. And she did so good. So, we just wish you guys, continued happiness in the future. We'll continue to keep you in our thoughts and prayers as we move forward with all of this. And your journey of faith, and the miracle of Hannah is just so touching. And I hope that those of you that are listening to it out there, that it can touch you as well, because I'm sure it will. So. Please join us for our next episode, where Bishop Bill will continue his teaching series on the Bible, and this time he'll be going over Paul's letters.
Thank you for tuning in today to the Gaudium et Spes podcast. If you would like to know more about our podcast, please visit gaudiumetspes.net or go to ptdiocese.org and click the button that says podcast. If you listen to the audio version from an app such as iTunes, Stitcher, or Spotify, be sure and rate, review, and comment. If you watched us on YouTube, make sure you like and subscribe or leave us a comment there as well. Thank you for joining us.